Arena now to discuss is Democratic Senator from Michigan, Alyssa Slotkin. She's a former CIA analyst and sits on the Senate Armed Services Committee, among others. Senator, thanks very much for being back here in the arena. And I do want to ask you about this. Obviously, these are allegations that we are reporting. They come in the context of other figures in President Trump's orbit who have been indicted when he has explicitly said that his Justice Department should take them on. My question to you is, do you think if John Bolton is indicted, it's part of President Trump's vengeance tour, or is it something else?
Well, I think it depends. I mean, if they find him guilty, if he's actually committed a crime, if a judge, using a legal standard, said that he did something wrong, I mean, I would take that very seriously. But I think it just really depends on whether these charges are thrown out, whether there's more action. I think it's hard to notice that there's been prosecutions by the Department of Justice of people that the president has been very open that he does not like. But again, it should be that there's a legal standard for everyone, whether you're a friend or an enemy of the president. And hopefully we'll learn more when the announcement comes out.
What would the risk be? I mean, you are obviously a former CIA analyst. You've got a lot of experience handling classified information yourself. If a national security official were putting classified notes, diary-like entries, sending information to his family members on an AOL account, as alleged, is that a national security risk?
Well, yeah, I mean, we all swear an oath to protect, the data that we have access to when we get read in on classified subjects. I mean, and most of us who are in this business have a top secret clearance. So you go through a whole training on how you handle that information. And it's an absolute black and white issue. You do not share it with people who don't have security clearances. So again, I haven't seen anything related to Mr. Bolton. I don't know in this case, at all, any of the details. But if you put classified information on an unclassified system and then you share it with a bunch of people who don't have access, who are not cleared, you've got two problems. So again, we'll wait to see what the facts are. This was similar to the Signalgate issue when the Secretary of Defense and a bunch of others were putting sensitive operational information on an unclassified system and then looped in a journalist who doesn't have a security clearance. That's a problem. That should be handled appropriately. Wasn't really accountability on that score. But I think we're going to have to wait and see what the facts actually lead to in this case.
Fair enough. Let me ask you about the government shutdown, which, of course, is continuing into next week now with the 10th vote failing, lawmakers heading out of town. I want to play what Senator Thune said this morning about the offer he says he's extended to Democrats, as well as the Democratic leader Chuck Schumer's response to that. Let's take a look.
I've told him, I've said we are willing to have a conversation. I've said if you need a vote, we can guarantee you get a vote by a date certain. At some point, Democrats have to take yes for an answer.
We're not negotiating in public, plain and simple. And Leader Thune has not come to me with any proposal at this point.
Are you aware of, it seems like there's two versions of the truth going on here. But if Senator Thune did make that offer and say, we'll guarantee you a vote, should Democrats take it?
Well, I'm certainly willing to sit down and talk about it. I'm going to start with the issue of health care, period. But I'm certainly willing to entertain an option like that. But adults just get in the room and talk about it, right? And I think, in this case, Senator Thune, we were literally 20 feet away from each other on the Senate floor about an hour and a half ago. If there was a deal to offer, if there was a negotiation to be had, I mean, it's not hard to find us, and especially those of us who are ready to have a conversation, who know that a government shutdown is bad and we want to end this. But you can't negotiate it through the press. You can't talk in the hallways and say you've made an offer when all you've done is look at a camera and said, this is what I'm thinking about. Come to us like adults, like we teach our kids to do. You get in a room, you throw out the media, no offense, and you have a real conversation. And it's not hard. And I get that Democrats are not going to win everything, right? I'm a realist. The Democrats don't have the House, the Senate, the White House. So I'm a big girl. I'm not going to, expect to win every battle. But I'm going to start with healthcare because we're in a healthcare crisis, because everyone I know is getting letters saying that their prices are going precipitously up. by January 1st because of their bill that they passed on July 4th. And so that's where I'm going to start. And we've had the 10th vote today, same vote, same numbers, nothing's changed. So, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is, sort of the definition of crazy, as they say. Let's just have a conversation. We can solve this in 72 hours.
If this shutdown extends past November 1st, which is the deadline, Democrats have set up as saying, okay, this is when open enrollment starts. If we don't do this by November 1, it's a problem for people. If we pass the November 1st mark, and it seems like we're potentially on track to do that, should you just reopen the government at that point?
I mean, look, the president is already spending on things he wants, not spending on other things that, where he's trying to punish blue states or whatever. He's already acting in a way that certainly doesn't build trust. So in my mind, again, if you already have people willing to talk about healthcare, let's have the conversation. This isn't rocket science. But I do think what you're seeing on the Democratic side is a pretty stiff spine, that in the face of a healthcare crisis where we're getting letters and calls and emails into our office, I'm not going to just roll over and play dead. No.
Would you, from a policy perspective here, and again, I do go back to it, Democrats in the past have said, don't shut down the government over policy points. But since we are talking about health care, this question seems to be a 1-year extension of the subsidies in Obamacare. That is something that some moderate Republicans have proposed doing. Do you think Democratic leaders should seriously consider that? Because some progressive Democrats have said that's a non-starter.
I think that's a good starting place, but I don't know that that's where we end up. I think for me, I would like to see a much longer extension, not just 1 year. So we're back in the middle of an election cycle next year, having the same exact conversation that we're having today. I would rather see it go much further out. But again, these are the things that we can get in a room and negotiate. So, I don't think it's healthy for anyone to be sort of putting out in the press, well, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. I won't do this. I won't do that. Everyone watching has had to go to work and sit in a room and negotiate with people they don't agree with and come up with a compromise. So let's do that, and we can figure out the details.
All right. Senator Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan, thanks very much for being here. Always great to have you.